Today we are going to learn how to find the features of a circle from its expanded equation. So what I'd like you guys to do right here in your journal, you should have x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 6y plus 2 equals 0. But what I'd like us to do is I'd like to get us all the x's together and get all the y's together. So I'm going to use two different colors. I'm going to use blue for the x's. I'm going to change it to red for the y's. Now the one thing I am going to do is, you guys see that positive 2 right there? I'm going to chuck him over the equal sign and make him a negative 2. That's not very, I'll put minus 2 on both sides. There we go, for the people who are going to be haters and don't like me tossing things across equal signs. There we go. So we have everything set up. You're probably, what are those empty boxes for, those empty squares? What we have to do is we have to do what's called complete the square. Now this is not a difficult process. This is quite easy, but we're trying to get it into this form. I'm going to go over here. The correct form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals our radius squared. So when I say complete the square, we got to get it into this form. Now, if you had Algebra 2, you completed the square in my class because that's what you got to do for quadratics. Well, guess what? That's what we do for circles as well. It's quite easy. Now, right here, does everybody see this number, that negative 6? We got to take that negative 6, we take half of it, and then we square it. What's half of negative 6? Negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Well, fortunate for us, we get to do that for both of them, because half of negative 6 is negative 3, and negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, so we put a 9 and a 9. Now, I'm going to highlight this part in blue, because we have to know how to factor this. Got to know how to factor that part, and we have to know how to, see here, we'll change that to a red. We have to know how to factor this guy. So what is the blue part factor to? That factors to x minus 3 squared. And what is the red factor to? Y minus 3 squared. And if we add all of our numbers together, negative 2 plus 9 plus 9 is 16. And now we have our equation. And for those listening to me, you're probably falling asleep, but you can always rewind and watch it again. Now, what is the h value? What's the center? What's the center of our circle, like the h and the k? We're at a 3 and a 3. And what's the length of our radius? It's just a 4. Why? Because this represents our radius being squared. So right over here, it says, what is the center of the circle? 3 and a 3. And the radius is 4. And that's what I'm going to type in to the Khan Academy. But you have to know how to complete the square. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Okay? So I'm not expecting you to get it all at once just from the very first go around, but oh, you always take half of it and square. That's how you complete the square. All right? So if some of you are like, that was a good question, like, why do we divide by 2? So typically, this is taught for quadratics. And in a quadratic, you have ax squared plus bx plus c. But when you're completing the square, it's always half the b value squared to get your c value. So your c value when you're completing the square is always half of b squared. So that's going to be kind of the important thing to know when you're completing the square. It's always half the b value squared every single time. All right, let's type in a 3 and a 3 and a 4. Okay, let's do one more. Okay. So I'm going to rearrange this so it's all organized from the very beginning. So I'm going to put x squared plus 16x plus empty box plus y squared minus 14y plus empty box equals, now what am I going to do with this positive 49? I'm just going to do what? Move it across and make it a negative for you. Put negative 49. All right, and then I'll put a box for the blue and a box for the red. All right, let's check this out, guys. Here we go. What is half of 16? Half of 16 is 8, and 8 squared is 64. So you put 64 here and 64 there. What's half of negative 14? Negative 7. And negative 7 times negative 7 is a 49, right? Oh, look at this. That negative 49 cancels out that positive 49. So here is your final equation. X plus 8 squared, that's supposed to be a square, plus y minus 7 squared equals 64. And there's your equation. So what's my h value? Negative 8. What's my k value? Positive 7. That's my h and my k, my center of my circle. And my radius is 8, because the square root of 64 is 8. So I'm going to put an 8 here, a negative 8 there, and a 7 right there. So before I move on, make sure you see the pattern. When you complete the square, this always factors to whatever half this number is. You can see that positive 8. When you complete the square on this one, what's half of negative 14? Negative 7. So it helps you when you're factoring. So we have negative 8, 7, and 8. Negative 8, a positive 7, and a radius of 8. Negative 8, 7, and 8. Okay, so that's all you guys have to do on those, all right? The other one that you're going to be working on, it says you need to do what? Graph the circle from its expanded form. Okay, so all I'm going to do is go over here. We're going to take this, keep practicing, and we'll show you how to use the tool to make sure you know what to do on this one. Same concept. All we're doing now is instead of just writing it in, we're actually going to graph it. So what do we have? We have x squared minus 10x. Then we have y squared. I meant to change it to red. Apparently it didn't change to red. There we go. Y squared minus 10y. What are we going to do with this 25? Move it across. Make it a negative 25. Open up a couple of boxes, right? A couple of spaces. I know it's not really a box. It's just a square, okay? So what is half of negative 10? Negative 5. And negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Positive 25. Because a negative times negative is always a positive. We know we're going to have a what? A 25 here and a 25 there. So we've got a 25 in both places. What happens with these, that negative and that cancels out. So here's your final equation. X minus 5 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals a positive 25. What's my h and my k? 5 and 5. And what's the length of my radius? 5. So we got like basically a 5, and a 5. So what does that mean? That means I got to go over 5 and up 5, put a center right there, and then I got to count out my radius. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. So I put a point here, and so I have a circle that will look something like this, right there. That's what you're going to see on the Khan Academy. All right, so I go take that, go over 5, up 5 right there, and what do? I stretch it out so that the radius is 5. I'm feeling pretty good about this, and that's how you do it. I'll do one more. If you guys got the concept, go ahead and start. If you want to see me do one more, see me do one more. All right? So here we go. I've got x squared plus 8x. Half that is 4. 4 squared is 16. Then I've got plus y squared minus 2y. Half that is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Equals. And then I'm taking this negative 19, putting him across the equal sign, so I have a negative 19. All right. But what do I have to, oh, my bad. My apologies. It's a positive 19. I'm sorry. Here we go. See, watch this. Boom. Got a positive 19. But what do I have to add to both sides of the equation? I got to add a 16 and then add what? Have to add a 1. Okay? So right now, we have 19 plus 16 plus 1. What does that all become? A total of 36. So here's my equation. X plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 36. So my h value is negative 4. My k value is 1. And my radius is 6. So negative 4, 1, and a 6. Negative 4, 1, and my radius has to be 6 units long. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. This will be my last question that I do. Hopefully after this you'll see the pattern of completing the square. Here's our last problem. We're starting with x squared minus 4x plus an empty square. Half that is negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 4 divided by 2, and I have to square it. So it becomes a positive 4. Plus, we've got y squared minus 10y plus an empty box. What's half of negative 10? Negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. We're going to take this positive 20, move it across, and that makes it a negative 20. But remember, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So here we go. Won't take long at all. So I got a 25 on both sides of the equal sign. I got a 4 on both sides of the equal sign. And all I did was take this minus 20, sorry, positive 20, subtracted 20 from both sides. That's how I got this negative 20. All right? So all we got to do now is just add all of these together. So we got 25 plus 4 is 29. Minus 20 just gets us to a 9. And we're done. All we got is this. X minus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals a 9. This is the part where students sometimes, they're like, how did you do it? How do I factor this? It's always half the b value. Just like this part. It's always half the b value. You're like, what's the b value? That's the b value. That's the b value in that quadratic. All right. So what's my h value? 2. K value? 5. Radius? 3. So all I do is go over 2, up 5, and make a radius of 3. So I go over 2, up 5, and make a radius of 3, and I'm done. All right. So what are we trying to do on this one? You have to expand it and use completing the square. If you need help with your problems, just write them down, and I'll be more than willing to assist you.